Hi, and thank you for joining me. My name is Melissa Riley, and I'm the director of the Native American Social Work Studies Institute at the Facundo Valdez School of Social Work at Highlands University, or otherwise New Mexico Highlands University. We started this program back in 2020, and it's been a phenomenal journey. Just thinking about the concept that one person built or thought of way back, decades ago. And I'm referring to our founder, Dr. Evelyn Blanchard, who was one of the key architects of the Indian Child Welfare Act of the 70s. And Dr. Blanchard had this vision about an institute being established and built from the ground up that would help students of undergraduate, graduate studies, and even communities to help receive the information, the knowledge, and the experiences to help make them better workers in tribal communities, working with the urban Indian population. Um, Her vision of creating more research within a school of social work so that it informed curriculum, and it could also form policy and a whole number of other areas that are so impactful to the field of social work. So, based on one woman's vision for a better tomorrow for our Native American, Alaska Native people, here we are today. So, as I mentioned, I am the director, and this is actually my first podcast. So, excuse me if I'm a little nervous here, but I have some information that I want to start off with, just an introduction of who we are, what we do, and what we plan to do moving forward. Since its inception, we've had this wonderful vision that was put forward by Dr. Blanchard, and we've been able to establish a number of resources since we've started out here. And we're actually based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We've established a resource library uh, focusing on Native American and Indigenous issues that affect social work practices. We've established resources in addressing behavioral health issues with Native American populations, both on and off the reservations. We've developed a research approach to working with tribal communities and urban Indian populations. And we've also been able to do a lot of research on law and policy, not just here in the great state of New Mexico, the land of enchantment, but throughout the country. And some of our most popular resources are from NARF, the Native American Rights Fund, Tribal Law and Policy, TLPI, located in California, and a host of other nonprofit and higher education institutions and government agencies as well. So we have our hand and our eyes focused on a number of resources to help build a library and a wealth of readings and writings and testimonies, videos, audio, everything we can find to create a better learning experience for our students and communities. We've been able to also develop curriculum. And our curriculum here at the Institute and what we offer to our undergraduate and graduate students is beyond theoretical concepts and historical information on the plight of Native Americans in this country. We've also looked at opportunities for learning and understanding how to navigate tribal government structures in social work. We've developed curriculum on North American Indigenous perspectives in social work and what that means. And that includes looking at not only our Native American history here in the United States, but also looking at the Canadian experience, our Indigenous brothers and sisters in the Arctic area, in the country of Russia, New Zealand, Australia, South America. So we've pretty much worked on developing a well-rounded curriculum to address the needs of our Indigenous people beyond the borders of the United States. We not only have this curriculum available for social work students, we also have training opportunities that we've been able to develop and offer to tribal community helping professionals here in the state of New Mexico. And I'm very excited to say that we have actually been contacted by the state of Alaska to help in offering information on intimate partner violence and its effect on maternal health, such as lactation. When I say that, we are very unique and going beyond the theoretical concepts and providing all of this training and information, I'd like to say that I'm very excited that we are reaching beyond the state of New Mexico and piquing the interest of another number of villages, tribal communities, and other urban populations that serve our Native Americans. The Institute really is tasked with one of the most challenging but rewarding tasks, such as reaching out to our tribal leaders here in New Mexico. And in 2021, that is exactly what we did. We had our first tribal leaders gathering. We had tribal leaders and their representatives come together and tell us what they would like to see in working with their helping professionals within their tribal communities, what their expectations are of social work, what they envision that looks like. And we had many, many takeaways from that. And we continue to work on addressing and responding to those requests by our tribal leaders here in New Mexico. And this is really indicative of what it will take to include stakeholder voices to build a strong social work community that will be reflective of not only the traditional practices of each community, but the culture and even the language. So, really, I'm really excited about that because there are not a whole lot of higher education institutions that are able to hold these conversations as such and be able to walk away with something that says, you know what, I can do that. I can do that. Uh, and Highlands has been very responsive in those discussions and ensuring that we are going to help in building a certificate program for helping professionals that are serving tribal communities. And there's several reasons behind this. And I will share that later on as we get into our series of podcasts. But as a higher education institution that is serving the great state of New Mexico, we really do have an obligation to see how we can build the workforce, how we can contribute to building a tribal social workforce that is going to be responsive to the needs of each community. So we'll have more discussions on that in our series that will follow. I started my career as a social work specialist here in New Mexico over 20 years ago. And it was a learning experience with a short curve. I started responding to crisis calls right off the bat, developing treatment plans, providing case management, having court appearances, and developing foster care training, just to name a few. So, if you can imagine that a social worker, a tribal social worker or specialist, such as I was, responding to the needs of one community with 3,000 members, and you have a workforce of maybe 3 or 4 within a program, that's quite a bit. And that really goes to show that in tribal social work, you're really a jack of all trades. You have to go in feet first and just respond to everything and anything that you're tasked with by your tribe. So it was a very rewarding experience and a lot of lessons learned along the way. I believe the Institute will benefit tribes and social work practices. As history tells us, we have not always had a great relationship with the federal government, but I believe that continuing to take ownership through self determination, and compacting of programs and compacting work and determining our own goals and objectives for each one of our tribal programs will help us be even more impactful in the education opportunities and training that we offer here at the Institute. If you look at our website at naswsi.org, you'll see more of the history of the Institute, including some of the courses that we offer, the training events, and you may walk away from just feeling that we are heavily invested in bringing our students and communities together to bridge knowledge and to build sound practices that are really going to equip our students with the skills needed to work with tribal communities. I am really excited that we can share our knowledge beyond the classroom and into continuing education units, which are required for licensed social workers and other helping providers, behavioral health providers, psychologists, psychiatrists. And with that being said, we've been offering CEU courses for a couple of years now, and this is the third spring where we've had capacity beyond capacity for some of our CEU courses. Uh, we originally had intended for 20 people to sign up for Native American women's issues. We have 40. And I think this high enrollment in these CEU courses is indicative of a lot of our social work professionals, tribal social work professionals' interest in understanding more about how they can enhance their education, knowledge, and skills in working with tribal communities and urban Indian populations. So at the Institute, we're really excited about that. We're under the advisement of Dean Judy Barnstone, and she's been giving us good guidance and direction on what we're doing, and we'll continue to move forward with that. A little bit of information about me and why I'm so passionate and why I feel like I've got my hand on the pulse of what's needed right now. I live on a reservation. I'm a member of the Mescalero Apache tribe in southern New Mexico. I've got ancestry, and my tribe's history are representative. Just unbelievable experiences that my people faced and continue to face today. And with all of these lived experiences and just ancestry, it's really informed my practices. And there's nothing greater than that. So I'm looking forward to upcoming podcasts and covering topics such as the Indian Child Welfare Act and the U.S. Supreme Court's pending judgment, which I believe will be coming up in June of this year. We'll be talking about tribal jurisdiction and much, much more. We've actually delved into a little bit of blood quantum issues, the history of blood quantum, and understanding the effects of blood quantum and who makes that determination and what tribes can do, or maybe what they choose not to do in regards to increasing enrollment or decreasing enrollment for tribal membership. Some of you may ask, why is that important? Well, because we have this really thick book, the 25 Code of Federal Regulations. We have tribal governance. that tells us that there is a need to address the blood quantum issues. We have a history. We are a human group. We're a group of human beings that are the only one that has a pedigree. We have animals such as horses and dogs that are given a pedigree, and Native Americans are also at that same within that same group. We are either one half, one quarter, or whatever our blood quantum may be. And there's a history behind all of that. And I think that it is important for a lot of our students and tribal communities and other helping professionals to understand. But we'll delve more into that at a later date. Some of the practices or the writings or the theories that inform my work and what I continue to use in my coursework and my discussions with communities fall back on the really important writings of Bobby Harrow's Cycle of Socialization, looking at imposter syndrome, which informs higher education, Native students in higher education. I know imposter syndrome is focused on a lot of women, and that's where it started from. 70% of people believe that they are imposters or fakes. But Native American professionals, even our higher education students, still experience that probably at a greater rate than we'd like to think. And that has to do with place, where we're at, our agency, and so forth. So, some of these writings and these theories, these ideas are great contributors to a lot of the approaches that we use here at the Institute. Course offerings such as navigating tribal government structures and social work. That course was launched in January and will is a 16-week course. We've had a lot greater response than what we thought we were going to. We have a lot of students interested in this, and very it's a very rewarding feeling that we are able to combine topics such as policy, law and policy, the history of tribal governance into a social work course because it gives social workers an opportunity to understand the role that they play in these tribal communities as a whole. We want our social workers, our students, our graduates to be successful in the work that they do with tribal communities. And this is just one element of that success that we believe will contribute to that success. We are working very heavy on topics such as environmental justice using an Indigenous lens. We were able to provide one workshop on that. We're expanding on that, and with partners such as the Bureau of Indian Affairs Pathways Program, the BIA Southwest Regional Office Program, the NMSU, uh, which is New Mexico State University's Indian Resource Development Program, and bringing together a 1 day workshop on this issue. And some may ask, why or how does that relate to social work? If you're doing any type of social work, the opportunities for environmental justice or social justice are unlimited. And we want to make sure that we provide opportunities for our students as well as community to see what the focus is and how they can provide intervention services, especially after natural disasters, as we've experienced here in the state of New Mexico with fires and flooding. Our social workers are going to be equipped, and we want them to take on additional information about how important the environment is to us. Our research practices, we are working on areas such as ethnography, which is a qualitative form of research, but we think it has a critical place in social work practice and offers some guidance as to the introduction, the entry into tribal communities, and things to take into consideration. So, this is a little bit of what we're doing, what we're working on, what we have coming up in the future. And I'm really hoping that you'll join us in future podcasts with some of our guest speakers, and we'll be covering these topics at length. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me at meriley, Riley, at nmhu.edu. And thank you all, and we'll see you in our next podcast.